2 cups in a row for them, but now we take a look at, I mean, if you were watching last BlizzCon, the best region in the world, North America, and the 2 teams going head-to-head. It's a battle of the best here as well. You look, you have the reigning champions. They have a very rough start with the first cup. They don't even make it to the broadcast. They guarantee they're at least top 4 already, but then you look at the Super Frogs, and this is the team that was right on the cusp, right? All last year, we kept saying, okay, if they make it to LAN, we know they're a phenomenal team. We know that they have what it takes to be one of the best teams in the world, but now they have Snuts, and all of a sudden they've kicked it up to a whole nother level. They look like one of the best teams in the world right now, and we're going to get to see how these 2 squads go head-to-head. My name is Rich. I'm going to be your host, joined by Zico, Supatis, and Venruki. Now, Zico, in this matchup, how on earth do you expect it to play out?
I think Method Orange are favored in this matchup. The patch has been treating them very, very well. We know Sidu has been practicing that Resto Druid as well. We saw him bring it out yesterday. Not to the greatest success, but he has it available. And just in general, this meta has been really good for Resto Shamans because they've kind of been able to catch up with those Resto Druids in terms of mana efficiency due to those mana regen changes that we saw earlier on. And we have seen Method Orange just kind of play what is essentially the meta right now. Demon Hunter, Death Knight, Windwalker, they have all of that stuff available, and that is their main composition. So the meta is looking really good for them, and I think they're looking good for this match.
Also, though, we look at these 2 powerhouse teams, and they're in the lower side of the bracket. This is an elimination match to start off North America, and the roads that these 2 teams had to go through to get here, not going to be easy ones at all. Looking on that bottom of the screen, that's where Method Orange and Super Frogs are hanging out. We can see that the Super Frogs started in that lower side of the bracket pretty early on, and they already did lose to Method Orange, which is one of the reasons Zico is saying that he does favor them here. It was a 3-1 series, but we know that Super Frogs have so many different options at their disposal. We've been talking about how Snuts is somewhat the NA Swapsy right now. He's one of these guys that can open them up to so many different lines of play with a little bit of time to actually sit back and say, okay, we know that this is our matchup tomorrow. What planning do you think these 2 teams have done to play against each other?
That's a really interesting question. I feel like so far, you know, Snuts really has been focusing primarily on the Rogue and the Elemental Shaman, and then they bring in Chanimals for the Roguelock Druid and Wealthy Man to play the Mage. So really Snuts flexing, and then you have Chanimals on the Warlock, Wealthy Man on the Mage. That's all they've really implemented so far. I'm curious to see if they run anything else, but I think the RLD as a composition is really strong and really allows Cubsy to play his main character, which is that Restoration Druid. Chanimals gets to bring in his main on the Warlock, and with how strong both those classes are right now, I think it would be obvious for them to lock that in.
Not to hop back in the time machine, but I see 1 Amigo, 2 Amigo, 3 Amigo. What's actually going on in your mind right now when you see these 2 players go head-to-head?
Yeah, that is an interesting question. I'm not sure. I feel like after talking with Snuts and seeing some of the tweets he's put out, he feels like these Demon Hunter Cleaves are really hard to deal with, and you can bet that I was going to say Method Orange, you could bet Method Orange will be locking in a Cleave, but I guess that's wrong.
Yeah, and Sam I Am, you know he's going to want to play up against Snuts. These 2 very long friends, somewhat of his senpai as well. Sam I Am going to show him everything that he has learned under the wings of Sidu.
All right, here in game number 1 in the lower bracket, these teams face elimination, and who would have ever thought that we would see Chanimal and Snuts playing together on the same team in the same arena, as they often are, both Warlock Masters, but Snuts flexing now over even onto the Shadow Priest in game number 1, facing off against Method Orange, who have led off with the composition that nailed them BlizzCon, but much weaker now since recent changes. Huge Chaos Bolt by Chanimal, bursting down Trill. A close call, but good recovery on Sidu's part.
I like the composition Super Frogs has locked in blind. I think it's solid overall. Does a lot of spread pressure damage with the Shadow Priest, and then you have good setup potential with Shadow Priest crowd control and Warlock crowd control, as well as potential burst one-shot kills if Chanimals can get off of some of his Chaos Bolts. The thing is, if you leave Snuts alone, Chanimals gets to free cast, and if you leave Chanimals alone, Snuts gets to free cast. I think it's going to become difficult for Sidu. If Snuts can actually get dots on all 3 members, his mana is going to fall behind quite quickly.
All right, Sam I Am's got a solar beam available, that yellow icon activating it immediately, and now going after Chanimal. Trill and Sam I Am need to coordinate burst, but Chanimal deflects by fearing Trill away. Now that that fear is over, Trill engages more crowd control. securing more defense from Chanimal. Sea-Doo moves in to keep the chain going even just a tad bit longer, but Sam I Am is being counter-pressured away, forced to hide now at the pillar. Regardless, that was a great push by Method Orange and puts them in the lead.
Yeah, this is a decent composition from Method Orange as well. It's just about them not falling behind. And I'm curious why Sam I Am, if they were expecting this composition, I'm curious why they brought in Sam I Am on the Moonkin. What is it about the Moonkin that is strong against the Shadow Priest and the Destro Warlock?
I mean, they must have been expecting Cubsy to not be a Druid healer in game number 1, and Solar Beam, Imprison, Bash, and Cyclone is a really good crowd control chain, and regardless of what you're facing, it can be effective. I don't think this composition is completely awful in the current meta currently, so I think it's not the worst decision that they could have made here against the Super Frogs. They've already netted themselves big defensive cooldowns, and with Solar Beam now available. Actually, Cubsy was able to immune its effect with Spirit Walker's Grace. That was a nice move by Cubsy, dodging that Solar Beam. Now Sea-Doo caught in midfield. He is running Feral Affinity. There is a Chaos Bolt flying straight at him. Not actually denting him. Now he's ducking around the corner. But if Sea-Doo exposes himself against these Chaos Bolts of Chanimal, he's definitely a viable kill target with that Feral Affinity selected.
I think that was actually a Shadow Meld from Sea-Doo that kept him alive right there. That Chaos Bolt would have been huge from Chanimal. Sea-Doo using the Shadow Meld, and that will immune sort of incoming damage. Sea-Doo now looking for a re-stealth. He's going to be moving in, getting a pounce over onto Chanimal, stunning him up, slowing down some damage, also building up some burst. If Sea-Doo can keep up those combo points at a later date, he can move in and try to get a big ferocious bite to help seal the game. In terms of mana, Sea-Doo's actually ahead as well. He's been using the Innervate from Sam I Am to regenerate his mana. Good self-heals from Trill. Sam I Am really hasn't been taking too much damage, and now Sea-Doo looking for a drink, going to be sitting in stealth. Chanimals shuts it down with a Rain of Fire. And that's what we're going to be looking to see from Chanimals in this matchup, him to spend those soul shards on Rain of Fire, which will deny Sea-Doo any drinks.
All right, if we look at the timer here, Chanimal has that green and purple icon below his frame accessible. That's the Call Infernal and Dark Soul. When paired together, Chaos Bolt is a crazy damaging ability. He's trying to set it up currently here. 1 Chaos Bolt to ramp up with that Grimmar Supremacy. 2 Chaos Bolts. 3 Chaos Bolts, and you may get a kill. Chanimal gets cycloned right at the end of it. This cyclone by Sam I Am is putting Chanimal so far behind. Is he going to be able to get that last Chaos Bolt out with the Dark Soul comboed together? Looking for a Fear, waiting for that Earthen Wall. There it is, Dark Soul, Chaos Bolt. Trill immuned it with the Metamorphosis. Chanimal goes for another. He's still got Soul Shards. Multiple Chaos Bolts incoming. If Trill did not make that Metamorphosis play, basically an immune frame when he activates that cooldown to negate that Chaos Bolt, he could have been taken out. Nice moves by Trill.
Yeah, Cubsy sat down for an entire drink, free reset for Super Frogs, and that's exactly what you want to do. When your DPS are playing aggressive with Infernals, with Dark Soul, Cubsy knows Sea-Doo, Sam I Am, Trill, they cannot afford to be midfield, so he can sit down for those drinks. Snut's going to get topped off here, just trying to spread pressure as much as possible on that Shadow Priest. I think Sea-Doo's been doing a really good job healing through this pressure so far. Snut's just going to be used to Dispersion, try to avoid some of that incoming damage, but Sam I Am's going to have Incarnation coming up in around 2 minutes. I guess Dispersion will rotate back up. Thing is, for the Shadow Priest, the Dispersion has such a low cooldown. It's not that bad to want to trade it out. It also provides you a little bit of additional healing that Cubsy won't have to heal through. So definitely something to consider for Super Frogs.
Yeah, most certainly, as Dampening has now engaged. Cubsy has a significant mana advantage over Sea-Doo, and that may be the name of the game as we get into the late stages of Dampening. Snut's dishing out pain towards Sam I Am, but Trill denies some of the follow-up. Sea-Doo playing Feral Affinity and trying to go after Chanimal a little bit by himself in the corner, and I do think that Sea-Doo is going to be the X factor in this game. His additional damage with Feral Druid could just be enough to push the Super Frogs over in game number 1. Another reason why they may have gone with this Demon Hunter Balance Druid is that they tried everything else when they faced Super Frogs earlier on in the tournament, and it didn't work, so they're desperate, and they're just trying to make something happen here. Sam I Am getting blasted, ducking around the corner, catching a quick Frenzy Regeneration to bounce back into the fight. Solar Beam defensively used over here onto Snuts. That is going to set Sam I Am back moving forward.
Yep. Double coils coming in from Chanimals onto Sam I Am and Trill. Can he find any follow-up damage? Doesn't look like he's going to be able to find a Chaos Bolt just yet. Double Fear coming in from Snuts as he marches forward. On the Shadow Priest, he's going to be relatively durable with the Vampiric Embrace off, healing Dispersion on a low cooldown, still has Void Shift available. It's going to be up to Snuts to push in, making sure he's getting dots on all 3 members. And now that we are in Dampening, it's going to become difficult for Sea-Doo to actually heal through a lot of this damage. He has the Iron Bark available to keep Sam I Am stable if they do manage to find some burst. Chaos Nova now on Snuts. This could be the Dispersion, but Chanimals counter-pressuring quite well with the Chaos Bolts on Sea-Doo as he moves to look to march across the map with Sam I Am to a new pillar.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the North American tournament where we are working our way through the top 4 to decide who is the numero uno here in the North American region. Will Method Orange be able to stay alive in the lower bracket? Currently, Method Frogs are in the lead in terms of pressure and crowd control and mana. Sam I Am popping that Incarnation, but getting Mortal Coiled away. Lord Chanimal once again has Call Infernal available. He can rain those down from the sky and strike terror as he engages on this attack. 1 Chaos Bolt, a couple more, and it's going to be curtains for Trill. 2 Chaos Bolts, Trill dips low. 3 Chaos Bolts, he Shadow Melds it. Trill with perfect awareness denies another kill opportunity here from Chanimals.
Sea-Doo trying to stabilize his HP. He does manage to find some healing on himself, mana at around 40%. Cubsy has been doing a good job looking for these drinks. Trill has to do a better job shutting them down, and that's exactly what he's going to do in this situation, managing to find some damage over on the Cubsy. Stun, looking for a mana rift as well. If he can consistently land these, I see Method Orange potentially having the mana lead, but the spread pressure from the Shadow Priest is just so good against the Restoration Druid, especially if they are able to deny the drinks in the late game. I don't know exactly what Method Orange is going to be able to do. They have to keep pressuring Cubsy as often as possible. Snuts now forced into the Dispersion, and now he is a very vulnerable target. Void Shift really is that last line of defense he has available. Cubsy having to trinket out. Sea-Doo getting low. 1 Chaos Bolt lands from Chanimals, but Sea-Doo gets out of line of sight, tops himself off, dispels all the Shadow Priest dots, and now potentially looking for a drink as long as Trill can stay durable as possible in this matchup. He does have Blur and Darkness to keep himself alive, but I just don't feel like Sea-Doo really has the time to go and sneak away for a drink.
Yeah, the mana advantage heavily in favor now of the Super Frogs, but crowd control and cross damage has been quite effective for Method Orange to at least have some opportunity here to kill Snuts moving forward. Sea-Doo silenced up. This could be a chance for Super Frogs to engage, but they're actually the ones on the back foot, which is unfortunate. That is typically when you would see them having the advantage position, but right now they're just running out of options. Snuts gets low. Cubsy drops the Healing Tide Totem to restabilize the team, and suddenly you've left Chanimals open far too long. Chaos Bolts are flying in. Maledix connects as well. Sam I Am mind controlled back to center field by Snuts. Great positioning here for Chanimal to tee off with a ton of Chaos Bolts. 1 being casted currently. Actually trying to fake cast there. Maybe fake cast over onto Trill's. Interrupt that disrupt. Sea-Doo's mana still not looking too good here in game number 1. The defense for Snuts is rotating back up and readily available as Super Frogs swap to Sea-Doo. They catch him out center field. 1 Chaos Bolt closing close to taking Sea-Doo's life. He's able to get around the corner just in time to start to stabilize, but he really doesn't have a lot of mana left to get himself back to full health with 30% dampening. I'm not even sure if he can.
Yeah, the Shadow Play composition from Super Frogs proving to be a little bit too much for Sea-Doo right now, as he keeps, every time he crosses the map, they're able to punish him quite a bit with the Psychic Core, with the Mortal Coil coming in from Chanimals, and Sea-Doo falls further and further behind. Now dispelling off the dots, looking for stealth. Snuts has to stop him. Chanimals has to stop him. Rain of Fire does get dropped, but Sea-Doo still potentially getting a little bit of mana back. No, unable to find it. Now Sam I Am is rotted down low as well as Trill. Sea-Doo has to play catch-up. Dispersion now available for Snuts, who trinkets out to continue the aggression. Root Solar Beam on Cubsy. Snuts could still be in a little bit of trouble. He doesn't want to get interrupted in this situation. Earthen Shield Totem does get dropped down. Big damage onto Sam I Am. 1 Chaos Bolt on Sam, 1 for Trill. Chanimal's doing a lot of pressure with this Dark Soul, but they have to try to avoid it at all costs because Method Orange, they really don't have too much mana left to work with.
Trill's going to have to go for an all-in push here with Darkness to save him if he's desperate. Snuts constantly annoying his opponents with mind controls and holding them in center field. Snuts really showcasing his multi-classing prowess here in the tournament, playing Rogue, Elemental Shaman, and now Shadow Priest at even the highest level. He is, though, under pressure, free casting Samayam. Lots of damage, but Samayam's forced and pinned back behind the pillar. This might be an impending triple kill for the Super Frog. Cedar doesn't have any mana to heal with left in the tank. Dampening is at critical mass at 40%, and I don't think they're going to be going back to full health anytime soon. It's do or die for Method Orange here in game number 1. They managed to pull Dispersion from Snuts. The mana is at least evening out, but the pressure certainly isn't. Trill is left in center field. Chaos Bolt gets casted. Trill takes it. How is he going to stay alive? One more Chaos Bolt could easily just get a kill. Cedar's got nothing left to work with in the back line, just doing what he can with basically nothing. Chanimal fearing Trill away. Earthen Wall Totem protects Snuts in this position. Channel just needs to start getting some pressure out, maybe push towards on top of Sidu, try and close it out. He's been left open for quite some time, but just not able to find enough damage to push Method Orange finally over the edge.
Yeah, Trill has been soaking up most of the damage in this matchup. Sidu pushing in. They're trying to close out the game on Snuts. He has Void Shift. Almost doesn't use it. What a close call. Chanimals gets Cyclone. Nice push there by Method Orange. Now Snuts going to be vulnerable. Spirit Link Totem still available for Cubsy. Chanimals getting a little low. Method Orange all over the place right now. They realize they can't just hide behind the pillar. They have to try to end the game. 45% dampening. Shadow Word Pain will eventually kill you, and Sidu knows that, so they really are running out of time. Ironbark gets tossed out onto Samayam. Barskin as well, just trying to avoid and immune as much damage as he can, but Chanimal's rotting down low. Method Orange, have they managed to stay in it? Cubsy, misses Spirit Link. Snuts and Samayam increasingly low. Sidu, how are you going to be able to survive? Chanimal's looking for a Shadow Fury to set Snuts up, who moves in for the Vampiric touches. The Vampiric embraces. There's an interrupt. Shadow Word Death should be able to connect quite quickly. Snuts still almost finding the kill here against Method Orange. And at that point in the game, against these classes, it's so grim for Method Orange. I think Super Frogs really outpicked them here in game number 1.
How in HE double hockey sticks did Chuck even manage to keep his team up that long? I mean, Super Frogs had so much pressure on them. He wasn't able to get away and get any drinks. We saw Sidu at 0 mana for such a long time there.
Yeah, he really did do a good job keeping his team going there, and I think a big reason to why as well is just the self-healing from that Demon Hunter coming in time and time again. It's so powerful. Demon Hunters in general take less damage from casters, and then in addition to that, they have that Soul Leech as well. You see Trill, every time he activates that Metamorphosis, he's going to be stabilizing himself. As you can see right there, he's gaining quite a bit of HP, even in deep dampening. But the story of this game really is that blind pick. Method Orange, they should have just locked in one of their cleaves. Maybe they were trying to avoid something that the Super Frogs has available, but we saw this this composition that Super Frogs ran here is actually pioneered by Group Therapy over in Europe. Yep. And one of the things I said yesterday when I saw Super Frogs play was that, well, Snuts is an amazing Shadow Priest. Chanimals is a great Warlock. I want to see them actually try to implement this composition. So I'm happy to see that they actually have been picking this up and practicing it. They looked really good on it. But again, it gets countered by those melee cliffs. So it's a pretty brave pick from them to pick it against the kings of melee cleave, Method Orange.
I don't know why they didn't just copy We Were Here's Windwalker DK with the Mistweaver. Walrix's team seemed like they had no answer. I mean, he played Guardian at the end of the series, and they played the same compositions, really, other than maybe they're afraid of a Rogue Mage. But even, I don't think Rogue Mage can do enough, even if you lock in the Mistweaver. I think that would be their best option overall, but maybe not one that they've prepared.
So much to talk about comp-wise when we do look at this elimination series here, and I want to take a second to step back though and actually look at who's playing against each other. Like, we started to talk about it at the beginning of the matchup, but there's just so much history between all these players. I mean, even on the same teams, like you're saying that, yeah, Chan is a fantastic Warlock. Well, yes, so Snuts. And there were Warlocks that used to go head-to-head. Now they're going to be playing against each other. You know that Snuts played with Sidu on, I don't even know how many teams throughout the years. They were teammates for a very long time.
2 years.
Yeah, so it's been 2 years, right?
No, they were together for 2 years.
Okay, all right, cool. Yeah. And then on top of that, like, we basically see Samayam, who came up not only on teams with Sidu, but before that he was on teams with Snuts. Then after that he was on a team with Snuts, and now he's back with Sidu. So between all of these players, there's just so much chemistry and there's so much history.
Actually, 3 years. Sorry, I was wrong about that. They're 3 years together. But yeah, there is a lot of history. I know Snuts as well. He was one of the players that actually found Sam-I-Am. They played together very early on when Sam-I-Am wasn't nearly as well known. And I feel like Sam-I-Am's relationship with Snuts is what allowed him to really grow as a player and improve. And Snuts gave him that opportunity. So now it's sort of the battle between the master and Snuts and the student of Sam-I-Am, who has been an up-and-comer, now won BlizzCon himself.
Yeah, and when you look at Snuts, too, the last person he teamed with, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Sam-I-Am, right? And then he took his little break, and now he's back out of retirement, and he's destroying. I mean, we kind of say that this is one of our favorite teams in North America right now to be able to take down the whole thing, get the majority of the points. It's just crazy to see them go head-to-head, but let's go back to the comps. Take just a second to appreciate that and go back to the comps and actually talk about what we expect to see. Warlock Shadow Priest was something that was a breakout composition to you, but I think the weakness here is very clear. I don't know if they can lock it in without full information. Again, Super Frogs, because they were able to just win this one, they do have to lock in without full information. You can see they picked Dalaran Sewers. So this is kind of taking away potentially a map from Method Orange as well.
Well, I think, Method Orange locked in Dalaran Sewers.
Oh, sorry.
So Method Orange locked in Dalaran Sewers. Quite obviously, they are setting up for a melee cleave party down there. And I think if Super Frogs are intelligent here, they would have their own cleave setup, similarly to what we saw from Wildcard Gaming, similarly to what we saw from Method Black. If they don't have a melee cleave that they have been preparing, though, for us, I think we're going to see something a little bit more standard, a melee caster healer. We might see a Wealthy Man coming on that mage, or we might see Chanimal on the Warlock and Snuts on that rogue, something like that for sure. And I think Method Orange most likely going to be playing Windwalker DK, maybe Demon Hunter, Windwalker, or something like that.
Okay, definitely looking to see what Super Frogs decides to do here with that same thought process we are assuming. Sid, what do you want to see?
I mean, it's really tough on the small map if they go for the double wizard, because there was actually still opportunities, I think, for Method Orange in that game to win if they had been able to find drinks earlier on to have mana to extend it to one more push. Super Frogs may actually play a cleave of their own. We've seen a lot of teams, at least in the Europe region, do that when the opposing team selects a small map into you. You then reverse it by picking a cleave of your own. But going cleave city against Method Orange might not be the wisest decision, so they need to consider that as an option. Maybe Cubsy switches healers if they think they're going to all in his shaman. I think the Destruction Warlock Shadow Priest looked good overall, and I'm wondering if that's the comp that they used to beat Method Orange earlier in the tournament. And they should probably just stay with it if it was.
Yeah, let's actually start to figure out what we're going to have more information here in just a second. Dalaran Sewers is the pick. Now we're going to see Super Frogs comp, and that's really going to tell us a lot about that. Do you think that you try to out-cleave Method Orange, or do you think that that's risky?
Well, I think that's one of the issues I see with the Super Frogs right now is every comp I can imagine them playing either has a mage or a warlock. If it doesn't have a mage or a warlock, the comp just isn't going to work for them. Okay. Chanimals, I've really only seen him play the warlock and the Moonkin, I guess, and then Wealthy Man primarily playing mage, sometimes a rogue. I don't know what cleave compositions they'd really have, and I'd like to see a little bit more diversity in that regard from the Super Frogs at a later date, not necessarily for this tournament, but if they were to add that to their roster, their arsenal of compositions they can run, I think it would make them a lot stronger of a team. With this composition, I feel like Method Orange, they can pretty confidently lock in the Windwalker Death Knight, and I think with the Mistweaver Monk, it will be good against the Shadow Priest, so could be an option for Method Orange on Dalaran Sewers.
Kind of feel like you look at Wealthy Man and you kind of think about teams like Method Black and you go, maybe if he had something like Demon Hunter, it would be really powerful for that team moving forward. But you can see here, maybe having their hands tied just a little bit. This is a composition that will be strong throughout this entire series, and potentially when they have a little bit more control, if it does go into one of those back and forth, Super Frogs should be able to have the advantage because of the blind. But Method Orange, you think that what we heard Ven say is probably going to come to fruition here?
Well, I would like to see Method Orange lock in the Mistweaver and just the Death Knight and the Windwalker maybe. But I'm not sure how practiced Sea-Doo is on his Mistweaver. So I don't think that picking a Shaman is, I think it's worse, but I don't think it's like significantly worse to the point where it's a bad matchup or anything like that. So if he's not confident in his Mistweaver, I want to see him just play that Resto Shaman. We know he's great at it. So I think Resto Shaman, Windwalker DK, Mistweaver, Windwalker DK, either way, they should have the edge picking either of those.
And everybody coming over right now from StarCraft, welcome on over. We have just started our tournament for North America. We already crowned one champion in EU. Method Black was able to take that. If you're just walking in right now, these two teams have so much history. Method Orange is the reigning champion from BlizzCon, and Super Frogs, they're old teammates from both of these sides that play with each other throughout the years, and Super Frogs is looking like one of the best teams in the world this year so far. They have been able to grab that first win. Now Method Orange is going to actually bring Trill here.
Yep. Oh, it looks like they are going to be locking in that cleave with Trill, and I think on the smaller map, we've seen how devastating Trill can be with that mana rift, and I think that's really what he's going to be looking for in this game. Once again, just looking to mana burn Cubsy out. I think they'll have good, consistent pressure on both Snuts and Chanimals, but Super Frogs, I feel like they know Method Orange has this comp. This is what Snuts has been talking about on Twitter. Something that's been really difficult for them are these Demon Hunter cleaves. So maybe Super Frogs with this composition, they might actually fare quite well into what Method Orange is running. I think that's why they were confident locking it in the blind pick.
Yeah, that was exactly what Sid mentioned as well. He was like talking about whether or not this is something you wanted to see on the blind pick. And now when we look here, how do you think it does go into a composition that we've seen? This is almost the bread and butter comp right now for Method Orange.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. It's very similar to what we saw in Europe as well from their sister team, Method Black. So they definitely have a good shot here on Dalaran Sewers, but having lost the first match and having lost that blind pick advantage and the swing pick advantage, if this goes back to a Game 5, as I expect it will, with the maps being pivotal in terms of each team being able to gain an advantage. If Method Orange lose here, then I think they're just going to be knocked out of the tournament, which would be unfortunate, as we see them as the returning BlizzCon champions, going now head-to-head with previous BlizzCon champions Snuts and Chanimal. I'm not 100% sold on it. I think that the Mistweaver healer would have been a better pick than the Shaman, but maybe they didn't have it prepared enough for the tournament today.
Yeah, it is nuts to actually think Method Orange, the amount of points that they have, it's scary for them for the entirety of the year. Yes, it's very early in the season. We've only had 2 weekends for the year, but they got 0 points first week, and now all of a sudden they do make it at least to the top 4, but they need to string something together here if they want to have a very deep year, if they want to try to make it to that land.
Well, here's the thing. There's more than 4 teams in North America that could easily qualify to the tournament, so it is not safe for a single one of these rosters. Method Orange, they're going to be focusing on burning out Cubsy as often as possible. Cubsy's just going to be trading out his trinket immediately. He wants to just use that to avoid mana rifts, and what they're going to be doing is have Snuts. Once Cubsy doesn't have a trinket to rotate out of the mana rift stun, Snuts is going to use his life grip in order to get Cubsy out of the mana rift, and if they rotate those, they're going to be able to avoid a lot of those mana burns that Trill has available, and that's going to give them an extended period of time to get their dots rolling, get their pressure rolling, and potentially win this game.
Yes, Snuts under fire here by Mez, but now pushed back by Chanimal, and if Chanimal is left open, he's going to have to be the playmaker, both defensively denying the advances of Method Orange and aggressively setting up for kills. At this moment in time, he has potential for huge damage. He needs to get a couple Chaos Bolts off. He's working his way through the interrupts one by one, but Mez's stun delays it for a couple of extra seconds. Snuts in a good position at the bottom. I really like this position. You can tell that Snuts is one of the best players in the game, playing the bottom outside wall. This way, the enemy healer, Sidu, has to cross center field. So now what Snuts will do is go to the bottom opposite wall of the situation, and then Sidu will cross the middle. Chanimal needs to play up top and center to intercept Sidu. I would like to see Chanimal reposition. Now we see Sidu has to cross the map. Chanimal can intercept and fear in this position, which he's looking to do right now. Gets that onto Sidu, which then can allow them to set up for damage. Cubsy keeps the chain going, but damage is just not there.
Yeah, there is no damage on Mez and Trill right now. Snuts has been taking most of the pressure throughout this game. If you look at mana, Cubsy a little bit behind right now, trying to top off Snuts as he's looking to kite away with that demonic gateway Chanimals has available for him. But Snuts still low. Sidu's doing a good job so far. He's been dispelling a lot of Snuts' dots. There's a lot of interrupts as well, so something that really matters a lot in this matchup is Sidu, Mez, and Trill not overlapping their interrupts. You want to have Mez Mind Freeze in one of Snuts' casts, then you want to have Trill interrupt, then you want to have Sidu interrupt, and you want to rotate that over and over. And if they are able to do that, in addition to grounding and dispel, Snuts' damage output gets really limited in this matchup, and that's going to allow Method Orange a lot of breathing room.
All right, Chaos Bolts raining down here by Chanimal. Trill kind of disrespecting it, just jumping over towards Cubsy, stun locking him, but Cubsy trades Gliders Medallion to dodge Mana Rift, that incoming mana attack basically, which will drain Cubsy's mana quite effectively. Sea-Doo maxed out on mana, in a good position for the late game. Chanimal's still trying to do his best to set up damage. I do like Snuts' positioning. However, his damage is just not there, and it's likely because we're going to need dampening to reduce the healing of Death Strike and the leech healing on the Demon Hunter. When dampening is in effect, the strategy that Snuts is employing will be more than effective, I do believe.
Yeah, potentially, but they have to make it there first. Cubsy already on 50% mana. Snuts with no dispersion. Could be the Void Shift coming up here very shortly if Super Frogs, or sorry, Method Orange can continue the assault and continue this pressure, which it seems like they can. Snuts just cannot get away. Too much damage from Mez, too much damage from Trill. Vampiric Embrace looking to deflect a little bit of this damage. Cubsy with no trinket gets hacked. Unfortunately, it breaks with a void form of Snuts. A little bit of a miscommunication there by them, not getting full utility out of that crowd control. And you can see Sea-Doo's mana sitting at 100% right now. So in terms of the rot pressure that Super Frogs has, Sea-Doo has been able to deal with it really easily.
Yep, quite effective indeed. His mana is maxed out. Cubsy not looking too good. Obviously, Trill is attacking that constantly through the fight as well. On top of just the single target pressure being much more significant, and this composition could be the answer that Method Orange needs to thwart the Super Frogs here in game number 2. An elimination fight in the lower bracket. The loser of this will be going home in 4th place. The winner at least gets 3rd, but obviously these teams want to finish in 1st. We've got the reigning BlizzCon champions, Method Orange, going up against North American Cup champions, #1, Super Frogs. Both of these teams top caliber. Decent pressure on Snuts as he falls behind. But once again, his positioning is perfect in this far back corner. Now Sea-Doo is completely exposed in midfield, but this positioning is great. They still need dampening to really push through the defense of Mez's Death Knight and Trill's Demon Hunter. Now even trading the anti-magic zone for that Dark Soul of Channel. It's a fair exchange on Mez's part, just respecting that increase of damage and denying it completely.
Yeah, Sea-Doo completely fine as well. Channel is pressuring him down, but if Ghost Wolf, he's going to be able to easily heal himself up with that pressure, just spamming Dispel. Snuts forced into dispersion, and this is not looking good for Super Frogs. This entire game, they've had no pressure, maybe a little damage on Sea-Doo, but he has everything. He's completely fine. Triple Fear from Snuts needs to find some vampiric touches here. This is the pressure that Super Frogs potentially needs, but Cubsy almost completely tapped on mana. What is he going to do to keep Snuts alive? Really only Void Shift and Vampiric Embrace is the only utility that really Snuts has to stabilize himself a little bit, but Mez and Trill have been full health literally this whole fight.
Yeah, there's really no opening. Even though Snuts is standing in the perfect position, Chanimal is free casting, they can't dent them, which is now why they're switching their attention to Sea-Doo to potentially take him out. But he's got that Pack Spirit Ghost Wolf build, so he can just immediately heal himself in Ghost Wolf as well. This composition that Method Orange have crafted is basically impenetrable to the damage type that Super Frogs have brought in this matchup. Dampening definitely a requirement, but making it that deep with 0 mana left on Cubsy is not going to be easy. Can the Super Frogs do it? Can they pull it off despite being so hard countered by Method Orange?
And we'll definitely have to see. If there's any team that could do it, it would definitely be them. Snuts getting low as he gates away in a lot of trouble. Mez grips him back. Trill there to support. Good fears from Chanimal to try to slow down Method Orange just a little bit. But Spirit Link Totem might get dropped out by Cubsy here. I don't even know if he has enough mana to do it. Earthen Shield Totem gets used. Snuts really just trying to tank and hold on a little bit longer till Dispersion is now available. And that should allow Super Frogs a little bit more time, but Method Orange, Sea-Doo, full mana, every single cooldown, no problem whatsoever. Gets the Dispersion from Snuts as he tries to kite away, buying Chanimals a little time to try to potentially get off some Chaos Bolt, some interrupts, but it's just so difficult here for Super Frogs. It's just a matter of time, I think, before Snuts goes down.
I mean, it's just going to be a huge blunder on Method Orange's part, in my opinion, to lose to this setup. They've just completely shut Super Frogs out of this game. They need a different composition if this is what Method Orange are going to be cooking for the rest of the series.
Well, that's the question. Then can they keep bringing this throughout the entirety of the series, or are the maps going to be too much of a factor, Zico?
Well, the maps are definitely going to be a big factor, but we already saw this matchup play up against the Mistweaver version, against We Were Here, and even on the largest map, eventually Warwicks just went down on that Warlock to the melee cleave, and I really think that what it comes down to is the strength of what Super Frogs is running is that they have tons and tons of damage. They have that big burst damage. They have so much damage that they will force Maz and Trill to potentially just leave the fight completely, go behind a pillar and reset. Whenever that happens, Cubsy will, on a large map, have the opportunity to go and grab himself a drink. But the problem is, I don't see them actually winning in late dampening because Maz and Trill are both very durable targets. Even if they manage to stall out the game to 30-40% dampening and they go for an all-in, we're gonna see all of those big defensive cooldowns that Super Frogs potentially have saved up just get burnt all at once. So I don't think the map is going to be enough of a factor. They might be able to grab another win on Tolvir, but I don't think Ashamain is big enough, and I don't think any other map is going to be big enough for them to pull through the entire series with this comp.
All right, well, we're all tied up in the series. We have two absolutely stacked teams facing elimination. When we return, we're going to see which one makes it deeper into the tournament. Champions from last year who haven't been able to accumulate nearly enough points to feel comfortable in the North American spotlight. And we have the Super Frogs that already have proven they are one of the top dogs this year. My name is Rich, and I'm joined on the desk by Zico, Super Tease, and Venruki. And right now, when we look at the compositions, we see one of the breakout comps with the Shadow Priest and the Warlock, where you were saying, I want to see this more, I want to see this more. And we're seeing a Cleave composition, which appears to be an answer. It appears to be super in vogue. It appears to be super in meta. Who do you have taking this series right now?
I'm going to go with Method Orange. I think Method Orange has the comp to beat this. I don't think the big maps are going to be too big of a factor.
My only question is, why did Method Orange use this composition in Game 1?
Well, that's what I want to know. My question is an even better question. Why are they using this comp at all?
Game 5.
0-2 on it.
Game 5. Top of the bracket.
Yeah. I didn't like it then, and I still don't like it. I don't want to see this comp because what made it strong back at BlizzCon, that's been nerfed. That trait that really made Moonkins shine like that with the Innervate, it's been nerfed, so,
yeah, so
I don't think it's a great comp anymore.
Yeah, basically, if you didn't get to watch BlizzCon, that was the comp that really did win Method Orange pretty much the entire tournament. Lively Spirit was a trait that they were using. It basically interacted with Innervate, so you would ramp up massive amounts of spell power, and you could just come in with the biggest, beefiest Star Surges, and that was what Sam I Am really just did to delete people out of the arena. That is how Method Orange looked so dominant in the Grand Finals as well. But here, it doesn't seem to be it, Chief. And every time that we have seen it, it's the reason that they were in the lower portion of the bracket. It's the reason they're facing elimination, and it's the reason why they're tied in this series, potentially, instead of leading by 2-0. What's your thoughts, though, as to why maybe they are going for it? I know you initially asked the question, but I'm curious what you think.
And for what composition?
For playing the Moonkin.
I'm not sure, honestly. I think it's a comfort pick for them from last year. I think they want to make it work, but so far, I mean, nothing against Sam I Am. Every time we've seen that comp, Method Orange has gotten ran all over. I'm sure they practiced it, and maybe it's better in practice, but I don't know what they were trying to accomplish, what they're scared of.
It might have been this comp.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, this could definitely be the one. Super Tease, as you did mention.
That's true.
It's a pretty good answer against this.
I guess that's smart. We figured it out. We answered our own question. But I'm not even convinced entirely that Super Frog's composition with the mana changes actually is the winning composition here. I think Method Orange definitely has a fair shot.
This was one of the comps that when we first got here, you were telling me this is one of the best comps. This is one of the comps that we can expect to see a lot of with Ellie Mage. So what about the mana changes has made it worse in your mind?
Well, just when you have 2 melee running at your mage as a restoration druid, you can back him up quite easily with Cyclone. And with the mana changes, that isn't as viable of an option, as Cyclone is a very expensive utility spell. It's really risky. If you're just throwing out Cyclones to keep your mage alive, you can go out of mana relatively quick, especially if you have a Demon Hunter like Trill just burning you with his Mana Rift. So a lot of these restoration druids, what they're opting to do instead is just try to heal through the damage. Instead of trying to crowd control through it, they just heal through the damage, then try to sneak away for drinks when Wealthy Man and Snuts can get counter pressure on Trill and Mez. But I have to see it to believe it, because I have so much faith in Death Knights and Demon Hunters right now. I just think in this particular meta, they're so strong with the amount of self-healing they have, how much damage they do, the ranged interrupts. They're just so disruptive for these casters.
And you have 2 of the best on the side of Method Orange, right? Trill is widely considered one of the best Demon Hunters in the entire world, one of the best theory crafters, Mr. World of Warcraft, and then you look at Mez, and, you know, when you pop cooldowns on a Death Knight, usually you're screaming in your team comms on Mez right now because he just always has done the most damage. We look at Super Frogs. I want to highlight Snuts one more time. Every single composition that they're having completely enabled by him.
Yeah, Snuts on the Rogue. Looks fantastic. On the Shadow Priest, grabs him the win. Here, he's going to come in on the Elder Shaman. This is a comp that worked very well for Super Frogs last week when they actually won the entire cup. So, Snuts for sure is the star player in that roster. But I feel like they are spreading him a little bit too thin. I want someone else on the team to actually pick up a melee cleave. Like we mentioned earlier, Super Frogs would look a lot better if they had melee caster, healer, maybe in the Rogue Mage and the Rogue Lock, and then they would have the double casters as well with the Elder Shaman Mage, Shadow Priest Lock, and then they would have a melee cleave potentially on there as well. We know Cubsy plays Shaman, Cubsy plays Druid, and then they would look a little bit more like Wildcard Gaming, a little bit more like Method Black to round out that roster. And like Van, I'm not entirely sold that this is the counter pick. This is the best map possible for it though, so if Super Frogs are going to grab the win, this would be it.
You know, I just want to look again. Sea-Doo, Snuts, Ven, when you were playing with these guys, how different did it really feel? I mean, the way of the road right now is we're saying, oh yeah, you need to have Rogue Mage. You need to also have, like, caster cleaves. You need to also have cleave setups. If you don't have all of them, how are you going to be a team that adapts as frequently as needed? When you were playing with these guys, how much did you need to think about that level of diversity?
Not as much because we only had 3-man rosters, so there wasn't the level of depth to teams right now. Now healers are basically forced into a situation where if they want to take advantage of all 3 members on their team, they have to play more than one healer. It's unlikely that just a Restoration Druid is going to be able to support the other 3 members in all the comps that they want to play. So because of that, everyone has sort of picked up new roles. When I was playing, it was a little bit different. Most teams only had 1 composition or 2 compositions that they primarily focused on. Most healers only played 1 class, and it was just a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing when you look at Sea-Doo as well. I feel like every year when he comes out, he has those 2 healers that he's just absolutely insane at. And then you see some of the other guys like Chaz that just want to play everything and try to get as many comps and specs under their belt as possible. But now, Method Orange versus Super Frogs, all tied up. Winner of this one finds themselves on match point.
All right, everybody tuning in. This is the first round in North America. The reigning champions, Method Orange, going head-to-head with the Cup #1 champions, Super Frogs. Method Orange crafted this composition to counteract that destruction. Warlock Shadow Priest completely shut Super Frogs out of the fight, but now we are fighting on Super Frogs territory here in Ashamane's Fall, a wizard's heaven. But with this Frost Mage and Elemental Shaman, will it be enough? Wealthy Man is constantly being pushed back. It's going to be up to Snuts to try and counter pressure and create opportunities for his team.
Yeah, Trill moving over on to Cubsy, and I think it's likely he wants to try to land a Mana Rift on him, but Wealthy Man is able to deny it with some polymorphs. Nicely done. Mez, decent pressure here onto Wealthy Man, and if they can force this damage on Wealthy Man, it's really going to limit the damage he's able to do. Now you can see Trill moving on to Cubsy, still trying to pressure him, but Snuts with good counter pressure. Good job by Snuts, forcing Trill to really think twice about chasing down Cubsy. Imprisonment into Mana Rift once again. And if we look at mana, this is what I'm talking about. Super Frog's already down to around 70%. The game just started. Sea-Doo's sitting healthy. Cubsy's going to have to look for drinks, but I don't think he's going to be able to. Trill, so far in this tournament, has impressed me a lot, being able to consistently shut down these Druids. He's always paying attention to them, always punishing them with the stun Mana Rifts, and I think this game could easily close out before dampening.
I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, just with this composition in particular. I feel like the Elemental Shaman and the Frost Mage has extended some of the longest games that we have seen really in the history of the game, so it would be quite a feat of strength if Method Orange could close this out early on against the Super Frogs. Although Cubsy, I guess, is at half mana at this point due to Trill's Mana Rift, as we have highlighted, burning away that resource that is required for healers to continue supporting their team. So that's enabling his team right now with a Hex on Sea-Doo and Lightning Lasso on Trill. That was a nice combination of spells, chaining both of those members out of the fight for an extended period of time and bursting Trill down towards the back end of it. But now Wealthy Man is on the back foot, getting bursted. Maybe an Ice Block this early on. Cubsy's almost tapped on mana. He's definitely going to need to look to find an opportunity to drink and regenerate his mana. We have seen that Mistweavers and Restoration Shamans can outperform Druids in terms of mana efficiency unless the Druid can get away and drink. So keep your eyes on Cubsy. He's going to have to be sneaky if he wants to pull it off.
Yeah, but like I said, Trill's been doing such a good job shutting it down. I'm not sure he's going to be able to. Temporal Shield was used there by Wealthy Man to redirect some of that damage and heal himself up. Cubsy still has just Mez's pet on him, so outside of Shadow Meld, I don't actually know how he can get these drinks off. Sea-Doo in a commanding mana lead, and I think this is one of those matchups that used to be in favor of Super Frogs, but now with these changes, Cubsy just has to play too conservative. There's no counter pressure, no crowd control on Sea-Doo whatsoever. It's just a matter of time before Trill burns out Cubsy completely out of mana. And now I just don't know what Super Frogs is going to do. Trill has every defensive, Mez has every defensive, and Method Orange, they just have the perfect composition to deal with Super Frogs, to deal with what Super Frogs has available.
Yeah, most certainly. Sea-Doo's crafted a composition that the Super Frogs have not been able to pin down, but Cubsy is in stealth, I do believe, and regenerated back to full mana. And now as we edge closer to dampening, that is a great way for him to keep his team going into the later stages of the match. And we've seen Death Knights become a lot more susceptible deeper into dampening when Death Strike is weakened on its healing effect. So Mez is likely to be the target later on, but I do like the targeting of Super Frogs in the early game, going after the Demon Hunter. Potentially, if Snuts crosses in center field, he could be a possible kill target. He doesn't have Gladiator's Medallion currently, and Cubsy is baiting him a bit by chasing around the map to get drinks and deny them. Good crowd control by Wealthy Man, and Snuts initiated here towards Trill, but Trill was able to escape, reverse magic, and get Sea-Doo back into the fight to save the day.
Yeah, it only took one drink from Cubsy to regenerate his mana, and maybe you're right, Sid. I had a little bit too much faith that the game could end out earlier. Trill still taking a decent amount of pressure as he's looking to continuously get to Wealthy Man. Mez, like I said, as a melee, your job is essentially shut down the Frost Mage, limit the Frostbolt spam, because that's how he builds up his Icicles, his Fingers of Frost procs, and his Brain Freeze procs. And if you could shut that down, you really limit his damage. Sea-Doo hasn't had to sit down for a drink just yet. Now, finally, a full Polymorph is secured with the Lightning Lasso on Trill. Good attempt here by Super Frogs, but it just seems like Mez and Trill, they're going to be completely fine.
Yeah, Mez and Trill totally restabilized. Sea-Doo still capped out on mana here as we enter dampening. It's still an even match. It's anyone's game here in the lower bracket. Best of 5. These teams face elimination. Method Orange need a top 2 finish, a top 1 finish if they really want to keep their hopes up to qualify to the spring finals. So if you are a Sea-Doo fan, he needs your energy here and now. Polymorph secured. Sea-Doo on the back foot as Trill gets caught in a Lightning Lasso, interrupted by Sea-Doo. Good teamwork between both Trill and Sea-Doo to assist each other during these crowd control moments and keep their team in the fight. Mez doing his best to max out his damage amidst all of that, but quite difficult when facing a Frost Mage. You are just snared up and unable to move throughout most of the fight. Mez sniping Cubsy there as he went for a drink to regenerate mana. Death and Decay, perfect placement by Mez. Pressure now on Cubsy as Trill tries to go after him. Darkness traded out here by Trill. A bit of a preemptive move, but I'm not sure if it was really required.
Yeah, and when you look, too, if Cubsy's able to get away and get any drinks, is Trill able to go for this strategy of going in with the mana rifts, or is he not even going to be able to tax him, Sid?
I mean, moving into dampening, it might work, but I really doubt it. Snuts down at half health at this moment, and Method Orange are starting to develop some pressure for their team here at 10% dampening, and Cubsy's drink has already been burned through. That advantage that he may have been able to place is lost. Sea-Doo, though, has been tanking quite a lot of polymorphs, and later on in the fight, I do not think that he's going to be able to get away with that, especially because Trill has traded out Darkness, that purple icon below Trill's health with the 3M. That's the most powerful defensive cooldown Method Orange have available, and it's not there to save them. They have no safety net, really, in that regard. So Sea-Doo cannot afford to make mistakes here as dampening continues to ramp up.
Yep, and at 13%, things are getting a little bit scarier. Cubsy, mana not looking good, and this is where we saw Cubsy actually sneak away and get a drink off. And Method Orange, they have to do a good job shutting that down. Cubsy now sitting in stealth. Can Trill find him? Both Sea-Doo and Trill not going to be making that mistake once again. Hex and Polymorph going to be overlapped. Lightning Lasso now on Trill. A little bit of burst damage coming in from the Super Frogs. Wealthy Man, although he doesn't have his Icy Veins available for another 2 minutes, which means I think it's unlikely they'll be able to actually take someone down from Method Orange unless they get a nice extended crowd control chain on Sea-Doo, which they have been able to find quite nicely. Sea-Doo's going to be throwing over his Gladiator's Maledict to try to help out his team, get some burst damage rolling onto Wealthy Man. but Cubsy's mana is just really not doing well.
Yeah, and you can see, too, Sea-Doo taking a lot of that responsibility to make sure Cubsy can't get the drinks. Trill is able to fly across the map and also deny them. It is a give and take between the two of them, but look at how far ahead we do see Method Orange. They're going to have so much defensive capability, and also Sea-Doo's got plenty of gas in the tank.
Yeah, and right now, Cubsy actually doesn't have his Shadow Melt available, so if Sea-Doo can chase him, Mez's pets should be able to reach Cubsy here, and Trill could actually potentially abandon this chase of Cubsy entirely and instead focus his pressure over to Wealthy Man. I think if they manage to pressure Wealthy Man enough to start forcing out those ice blocks, we're really going to see Cubsy just be in a situation where he's not going to be able to even go for those drinks anymore because Wealthy Man is going to be under so much pressure. As we can see, Mez's damage really is starting to ramp up now.
Yeah, Wealthy Man could be in a little bit of trouble. Mez just like the Terminator running at Wealthy Man the entire game. And Wealthy Man, the only time he can really get him off him is with Frost Novas. Death's Advance for a Death Knight makes him such a powerful foe. They can just march at you, only being snared by maximum 30% speed. So as long as they have Chains of Ice on you, they will always be moving faster than you are, and that's what gives Death Knights such a high amount of uptime. And it really is up to Wealthy Man to keep Mez in Frost Novas if he wants to create some space.
Also, we are going to see they finally get Sea-Doo's Link with a Hex. Trill was taking a whole bunch of pressure there. Trill isn't going to have his trinket here.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's going to be
Man.
a nice block. Yeah, onto Wealthy Man. Cold Snap was traded out as well. So Wealthy Man in a dangerous situation, but Cubsy no mana. This is what I'm talking about. This is the perfect situation for Method Orange.
They're not going to top off, I don't think, for the rest of the fight. It's do or die here for Super Frogs, and if Method Orange can beat the Super Frogs on their counter pick, I don't think the Super Frogs are going to stay alive in the tournament. Method Orange have crafted a composition that looks just so great overall. It looks impenetrable, really. I'm surprised that they didn't just start the series with it. They were afraid of this composition, but they're just destroying Super Frogs. All three members at critical health. Cubsy getting run down, but there is counter pressure. Maybe Snuts can pull something off. Sea-Doo Spirit Links, but nobody was in it. They missed the Spirit Link. Maybe they can pull it together because of that critical mistake, but they don't have much time to do it. Innervate is the only reason Cubsy can keep healing right now. He gets a couple of free healing spells, but even still, dampening is just so high. But the mistake made earlier might actually cost you to the match here. Lightning Lasso dealing devastation towards Trill as Super Frogs try to claw their way back into this game. Bash now to follow up. Trill on the run, ducking around the corner to avoid death, and Cubsy manages to somewhat stabilize the team, but for how much longer?
Yeah, I really don't know. Cubsy looking for a drink. I think it's unlikely he's going to be able to find it. Snuts doing great counter pressure in this game onto Trill. Trill gets interrupted on the I-beam, trying to limit as much damage as possible, and that sometimes is a better trade. At this late in dampening, you just want to be avoiding as much damage as possible. Cubsy once again looking for a drink. Can Sea-Doo stop him? He does. He drops the totem. That's going to keep Cubsy in combat. Wealthy Man with no ice blocks. A vulnerability here for Super Frogs. 36% dampening. Trill reconnects. He's feeling very healthy right now. Sea-Doo tops him off, and I don't think Super Frogs is going to be able to close out this game. It's just a matter of time, but with the full Hex Polymorph on Sea-Doo, that's an opportunity. Wealthy Man very low, though. I don't think there's the healing, and just no mana left for Cubsy. This composition from Method Orange is just so good.
Still shouldn't have been that close, though. Kudos to Method Orange for pulling down that win, but you look at that huge mistake that comes in. They hold on to so many of those defensive cooldowns and then whiff on them, and ultimately there was a kill opportunity on Trill for a few seconds there. He has to get out of dodge. Before that, though, it looked like Wealthy Man was going to die in hypothermia.
Yeah, and that's the thing. As long as Trill keeps getting those mana rifts onto Cubsy, and then he just keeps having Mez applying that pressure onto Wealthy Man, eventually when Cubsy is starting to run really low on mana, when Wealthy Man is starting to really feel the pressure from Mez, you can actually just turn your attention completely to Wealthy Man, start forcing out those blocks with the triple Maledict trinkets, and then after that, you have a pretty easy time to close out the game. But like you said, there was a very, very close call, and the reason for that was because Sea-Doo actually trinketed aggressively to stop one of Cubsy's drinks. I really think Sea-Doo and Trill had a great coordination shutting down Cubsy when he was going for these drinks, but you also have to shut down some of those polymorphs. Way too many scary moments there towards the end of that one.
Yeah, I feel like, too, when we do look at this composition, it forces Cubsy down a very particular line of play.
Yeah, he's just forced to look for drinks the entire game. He's just getting taxed with the amount of consistent damage that they have. There's really not that much counter pressure available for them until later on when Sea-Doo is feeling less comfortable and he can't just comfortably heal with a Riptide. He actually starts to have to, when he starts to having to channel out heal. Sorry, it's been a long day. I can't talk anymore.
I can never talk, so
yeah.
I'm jealous that you can ever do it.
Yeah, well, it becomes difficult for Sea-Doo eventually in that game, and that's when they can find moments to actually win the game. But the problem is now with this new patch, they can't actually make it that far. Cubsy is out of mana too soon in the game. It's really difficult for him to drink. It's difficult for him to play aggressive. And Method Orange, I feel like they have the perfect composition into what Super Frogs has available. Yeah,
it does seem like they need to have mistakes like they had towards the end of that last game if we're going to see Super Frogs win, right? It really is on Method Orange to kind of make a mistake here, unless the Super Frogs can pull some crazy cat out of the bag. But it looks at this point that we're kind of in the final hour here, and they haven't found anything yet.
I mean, if they can't win with that, which was their best setup possible into what Sea-Doo has brought, what do you do?
On the best map, too, probably, for it.
They have to do something completely wild. Like, I don't think anything that they're playing standard is going to work here.
Let's get wild. Let's think. Let's put on the wizard hat right now. Let's try to figure out what the most wild thing that they could do would be. I mean, we've seen some wild stuff come out from Method Orange already in this tournament.
I want to see a Warrior. I want to see Warrior, Elemental Shaman, Resto Druid against what Method Orange is playing.
Thunder.
I think that could be good. We've been talking about a Warrior a lot, and maybe there's something we don't know, but I feel like in the past, Warriors have been really strong against Death Knights in particular, and you're going to have a really high, consistent pressure, a lot more than a Mage would have available.
Swifty, I know you are just cruising down that mountain in Romania right now on your snowboard, but you're needed. We need Warriors to come into the arena to potentially shut down Method Orange. We're calling all Warriors out of their vacation.
Honestly, I don't even think that Method Orange's comp is super favored to beat Mage Ellie. I just think Super Frogs, they made quite a lot of mistakes in terms of targeting. They should go after Mez for sure. Mez is not gonna survive in those super close situations as a Death Knight. Trill, on the other hand, he can just do one of his backflips and then he's gonna be at that pillar and he's gonna be able to recover. Mez, he's gonna, if he commits to Ultimate, he's also stuck in that open to deal with whatever damage that Snuts and Ultimate throw at him. So I want to see them try to control Trill more with Polymorphs and Novas and go over onto the Death Knight of Mez. And when dampening is kind of a 20-30%, we're going to see Death Strike being a lot less effective, and we're just going to see that the Sea-Doo is going to have to stop chasing Cubsy to actually go and heal Maz. If you have cross control on Trill, that's a moment where Cubsy can actually get those drinks. I don't think running around and trying to brute force it the whole time is the way to go, because what's going to stop Sea-Doo from just chasing him? There's no pressure on his team, and what's going to stop Trill from just using his metamorphosis, leaping across the map and stopping every now and then a drink or two, you know?
I mean, he was just going Spectral Sight, Glaive non-stop, and he was able to shut him down and chuck out all the other ones with different things like his Earth Elemental. I do want to say, because I agree with the Thunder, I think it would be cool to see it, but I don't know if Super Frogs could bring it, right?
I don't think so.
Because Snuts plays, I think Snuts does play Warrior, right?
I wonder, even though the Shadow play looks so horrible on Dalaran Sewers, potentially on this map, it could be something that they use, but
yeah.
I feel like with the way Method Orange is playing it and how good they're doing, like what a good job they're doing with their interrupts, it becomes really difficult for Snuts to actually get out any sort of significant damage. But
you look at Thunder, and I think talking about this comp is so important when we look at Super Frogs right now, not even because of the comp. We are going to see the very, interesting.
It's wild. I like this.
I do want to break down, before we look at this comp, the reason that I think it's important to talk about Thunder is because comps like that, they can't do, because Snuts is one of the only players that can move outside of his comfort zone and really multi-class here. But now we're going to see Chanimal on that Warlock and Wealthy Man on that Mage. Then likes it. Zico doesn't
kind of like it. I wonder, I would actually like it more with a Fire Mage.
Yeah.
A Fire Mage is baking Greater Pyroblast, G-Pies the entire game.
G-Pie Chaos Bolt.
Yeah. You're just sitting in the open and against a composition like this, although they're relatively durable to magic damage, all you need is a couple casts that they're not paying attention to and you can close out the game.
Chunky meatballs. I mean, that would be insane if you could just throw like lob G-Pies and lob Chaos Bolts.
I guess the one thing, and this is probably what Zico's thinking, is they're just going to sit on Chanimals and then there's no threat.
Wouldn't double Fire Mage just be better?
double fire mage.
Yeah, wouldn't double fire mage be better?
People don't.
There's some
people don't play that.
There are
comp.
people farming with it on the ladder right now.
That comp is not good.
No.
People aren't winning with green gear in that comp.
Okay, okay, yeah. So looking right now at the Super Frogs, how are they actually going to set up a win here?
Well, Super Frogs, they probably just want to go into Super Tease's wizard corner and kind of just set up those big damages onto Maz and try to take the game into the later stages and win that way. I just don't see it happening because, number one, it's going to be a Warlock against 2 melees. We've kind of been seeing how that's been going for Warwicks. We've kind of been seeing how it's been going in general for these Warlocks. And the other thing is, I just don't see Wealthy Man doing anything on that Frost Mage. When they do that, I don't think he's going to get out enough pressure, and I don't think Sea-Doo is going to tank enough polymorphs for Wealthy Man's Frost Mage to actually be a big factor in reversing that pressure.
Should we see some glacial spikes?
It's not going to happen.
Flash Freeze Glacial Spike build?
Flash Freeze Glacial Spike could
Splitting
actually...
Ice,
It
Rune
could.
of Power.
It actually could be pretty good. Not Rune of Power. That's a little too far, but I think they need to make Wealthy Man a threat, because if Wealthy Man can pull aggro, then Chanimals is going to be able to do a lot of damage. But if Chanimals pulls aggro, I don't see like Zico, Wealthy Man that great of a threat that's going to actually force them off Chanimals. I feel like Cubsy's just going to really struggle to keep them up, eventually go out of mana and they'll lose. But if Wealthy Man potentially goes a build that has a little bit more casted damage, then it becomes a lot more scary for them to train down Chanimals.
Actually, I don't like the Glacial Spike build just because Glacial Spike just doesn't hit that hard right now. However, I like the Frostbolt build where you pick Lonely Winter, so you lose out the pet, you lose out the Ice Nova, then you go with the Deep Shatter, you go with the Ice Form, you just go every single modifier in the game for Frostbolt damage, and then you just stay back in Super Tease's little corner, and you just spam Frostbolt flurries, and every time you shatter that, it's gonna do 40, 50,000 damage. It's basically like a Greater Pyro. The weakness of that build is that you lose a lot of your Novas, you lose your pet, you lose pretty much everything outside of that big burst momentum. However, me and Maruki, we're not going to see that. Instead, we're going to see Wealthy Man playing the Temporal Shield.
Yep, I just don't know what Wealthy Man's going to be able to pull off. Potentially, if he can find crowd control in Sea-Doo, then he might be able to get something done here. I'm really curious to see what traits Wealthy Man is running, because this is the strategy I expect Method Orange to run. Sit on Chanimals, deny Chaos Bolt, and win on mana eventually. They might even pull out a split strategy here. If Trill sits on Wealthy Man and Mez sits on Chanimals, that could be an option for them too. But one thing's for sure, with the way this game is playing out, I don't want to see Trill and Mez stick to Wealthy Man, because I feel like Chanimals is going to have a little bit too much fun free casting.
Yeah, at this point on Tolvaron Arena, the Super Frogs are against the wall and facing elimination against Method Orange. This Demon Hunter Death Knight seems to just be so durable that the Super Frogs have thrown a wild composition. We haven't seen this one in quite some time. It's a bit of a Wrath of the Lich King flashback with the Destruction Warlock and the Frost Mage. Can Wealthy Man's Punch be enough to take down Method Orange? We at the desk do not think that it will. I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to. Sea-Doo's got a great position right now. Chanimal needs to pull further away from that pillar to allow Sea-Doo to have to run to the open. Now they've got Sea-Doo out in the open, but then they end up overlapping crowd control. So mistakes here on the side of the Super Frogs. Later into the game, that could be an effective strategy to get a kill, but they can't afford mistakes like this crowd control overlap.
Yep, Polymorph on Sea-Doo out of the fear. Mez could be in a little bit of trouble, and surprisingly, Super Frogs has managed to find some pressure in this game, and it wouldn't be the first time we're wrong here on the desk, but we'll have to see. They still have a long way before they actually take Mez down. I mean, he still has his Anti-Magic Shell, Icebound Fortitude, Anti-Magic Zone, everything, and if you look at Cubsy, he's already down to 70% mana. Trill is just going on a mission to hunt him down, burn his mana, and ultimately win his team the game.
Yeah, Sea-Doo tossing that Earth Elemental at Cubsy. It's a really good way to keep a healer in combat. That Rock Elemental will just chase the target. You put it on and start smacking it. You can see Cubsy in the back line. So long as that Rock Elemental keeps hitting him, he will not drop combat. He will not be able to drink, as well as Mez sending his Ghoul after Cubsy as well to make sure that there is always something tagging Cubsy and monitoring him. There's decent pressure right now currently towards Mez. something like that, deep and dampening, is easily going to be a kill. There's potential for this composition.
I really think that in this situation now, when Trill is just chasing Cubsy around the map, and Wealthy Man is free to do whatever he wants, essentially. In this situation, if he actually was playing one of those higher damage, a little bit more riskier builds, he would be able to potentially actually cause Mez to be forced in a situation where he has to run away, and that would actually help Cubsy in getting that drink. Instead, they're not going to be able to get that drink. Cubsy is slowly but surely going to be losing out on that mana war, and Super Frogs, they're going to need to just win by outlasting Sea-Doo somehow, who has a gigantic mana lead at this point.
Yeah, Cubsy gates across the map, going to be looking to line of sight and sit down for a drink. Sea-Doo trying to chase him, but he's caught into the polymorph and a fear. Cubsy now still, unfortunately, not able to regenerate any mana. This is Dark Soul from Chanimals, but Sea-Doo responds with his Earthen Shield Totem. Now an Imprisonment coming in from Trill, and he's going to combo that with that Mana Rift. If you look at the purple circle below, Cubsy consistently look for that in the game. When it does expire, it burns 8% of his mana, I believe, and 8% of his health. So the longer that goes on, Trill will eventually run him out of mana, and that's one of the difficulties of going against the composition that Method Orange has. It's a race against the clock. Eventually you will go out of mana, but it's difficult to get a kill because both Death Knights and Demon Hunters are so durable. So in this current meta, I really think Method Orange, they have such a good composition, and it plays into their strengths. I mean, you have Sea-Doo on Shaman, you have Mez on Death Knight, and you have Trill on Demon Hunter.
You watching it on the outside?
I'm like literally just cracking up. They're just doing laps. Trill's just waiting to catch up to him, flying all over the place.
He lost him though. Yeah. Cubsy's going to full mana.
Is he?
Potentially.
Sort of.
He does manage to get it. The thing is, too, is you can watch just Mez trying to keep any summon that he has onto Cubsy. Cubsy being cheeky, trying to get away, trying to break that combat. Trill can sniff him out real quick with that Spectral Sight, but Cubsy still being the sneakiest kitty in this playpen.
It just comes down to Wealthy Man needs to get Trill off, but it needs to be in a situation where Mez is being pressured, and the pressure just isn't really there on Mez. If they need to try to combo these drinks, Cubsy needs to stay into the fight and try to actually assist, get some pressure, and then when they have that pressure, they can look to get those drinks off. This seems to be one of those cases, though. Wealthy Man getting a nice double Nova, Fear onto the Dispel of Trill, and there it is, a Sheep onto Sea-Doo. Nice setup here. Cubsy is going to be able to get a lot of drink. Mez is going to be forced back, and this is the type of things that we need to see from Super Frogs if they're going to be able to win this matchup.
Rich, you called it a kitty playpen, but I feel like Tolvaron now, the more that I look at it, is the World of Warcraft's biggest litter box.
I was going to make that joke, but I didn't want to say that because it seemed like a mean thing.
Whoa! Pay attention!
Okay, we can't meet, I
Spirit
guess.
Link Totem gets dropped out by Sea-Doo. Mez barely holding on. That wasn't even any cooldowns from Super Frogs. Just a nice crowd control chain. Good burst from Wealthy Man and Chanimals. And now you can tell Method Orange, they're playing scared. They do not want to play in the open. The damage potential from Super Frogs has been high. On Tolvaron Arena, this composition, I guess, could definitely work. There's just a lot of space for Cubsy, and I feel like with Trill chasing down Cubsy the entire game, they just don't have enough damage on Chanimals and Wealthy Man to really pressure down the Super Frogs.
All right, polymorph on Sea-Doo. Mez immediately now respecting the space and getting back to the pillar, able to duck out of line of sight and avoid that damage. However, like I've said, deep in dampening, all these burst windows are easily kills for the team of Super Frogs, but Cubsy needs to maintain his mana long enough to get to that point. Cubsy actually running Feral Affinity. He could be adding some extra damage to his team later in the fight, but he could also be an open target to kill for Method Orange if they want to try and take that opportunity. It's a pretty risky one to do, but I think it could pay off.
Yeah, I think they can just go after Chanimals. I like that Trill is finally just attacking Chanimals, slowing down the damage potential that they have, because Mez by himself isn't enough of a threat to really slow down Chanimals, but basically solo. So he has to be assisted by Trill with additional interrupts and additional damage to force Chanimals a little bit more passive.
And also at this point for Trill, you already know Cubsy did get the drink off. You can start to put your chips in a different place. Trill going to try to keep that pressure going on Chanimal throughout the remainder of the fight. Sea-Doo, though, still looking fine on mana. This is something that we expect from the Shaman. He's going to be caught in a polymorph here. He's going to hold on to that trinket, though, for a little bit deeper into the game.
Yep, big shatter combo here from Wealthy Man onto Mez. Cubsy been able to heal through this damage quite easily so far, especially now that Trill isn't chasing him down. He can comfortably just play at a far distance. I don't know if Sea-Doo's been able to drink so far, but he's been doing a good job managing his mana and keeping Mez alive. Chanimal's now taking a little bit of burst damage. We are at 13% dampening. Things are going to be becoming very scary for Mez, especially on that Death Knight. It becomes really difficult because your Death Strike no longer heals for as much, and that's how Death Knights are able to sustain themselves in a matchup like this. If Sea-Doo gets caught into crowd control, it's going to be everything from Mez. He's going to have to trade out Anti-Magic Shell, Anti-Magic Zone, every button to survive, and it's not easy for him to get back and retreat to a pillar if he does get caught in a sticky situation like that.
All right, Cubsy's maintained his mana for this late game advantage to take out Mez on that durable Death Knight. Can the Super Frogs stay alive in the tournament? They would have burned both of their largest maps, though. Even if they can pull it off, they may just be able to. Trill denies the kill, dropping down that darkness and protecting Mez, keeping him nice and safe, but maybe not enough as Mez retreats back to the pillar, having traded more defensive cooldowns, including his Icebound Fortitude and Anti-Magic Shell. Those are vital to his survival later on, and even though we were really counting this composition out on the desk, it seems like it may actually work, but when we move to a small map, a smaller location with less places to kite and less opportunities for Cubsy to reset his mana, I don't know if that still remains the case.
Well, the other thing you got to keep in mind too is Method Orange probably doesn't have many war games against it. They're figuring it out as they go, and you can see that as Trill starts to change his strategy. A lot less pressure on Cubsy, paying less attention to how much he's trying to get away to drink and putting more pressure onto Chan. He's going to get caught in the bash here. Mez has been that target time and time again. We almost saw him get deleted. But at this point, it seems like they are relatively stable. We're going to have so many different cooldowns for Method Orange. How, okay, here's the fear. How on earth do you think Super Frogs do close this out here, Z?
Well, I think Super Frogs, they just need to get a good crowd control chain onto Sea-Doo and then just get a nice burst with the Infernals over onto Maz. But at this point, Sea-Doo has so much mana, and they don't need necessarily to stop Cubsy right here. When it comes to that mana, they can just allow him to drink. I think that if they manage to get a big burst opportunity where they stack all of their CDs on the Chanimal, that's a big window for them. And as we say that, we see Sea-Doo getting caught up in another polymorph. Mez dropping dangerously low, actually. Can Cubsy maybe follow that up with a Cyclone as Wealthy Man gets stopped? Cubsy's not going to be precasting that Cyclone. Not sure why, but Mez is going to survive and weather that storm.
Yeah, but also Sea-Doo just was super greedy with that trinket, right? He did have the option to do so many different things there, but he's going to save the trinket link for deeper in the game for one of these threats that will definitely be lethal. A tough call to make for Sea-Doo, but a risky play that could be rewarded.
I also want to see Chanimal replace his gateway. As it stands currently, it's all the way on the other side where Super Frog started the game in the other starting room, and it's going to be crucial for him because as dampening is ramping up, Trill's damage and Mez's damage is going to become significantly higher. If they have all of their defensives available, which they do right now, they can just sit onto Chanimal and start forcing out the Iron Bark just with raw pressure. And when it comes to that, he's going to have to start using his Unending Resolve as well. And then when it comes to that, he's going to just be dead.
Yep, Mez in a lot of trouble, though. He's caught in midfield. Sea-Doo was in polymorphs. Nicely done by Wealthy Man. Now controlling up Trill. Shadow Fury on Mez. Is there any additional damage? Cubsy's actually been throwing in Solar Wraths as well to really pressure Mez away, as Mez uses the Wraith Walk to get behind the pillar. Sea-Doo having to play catch up a little bit here as all three members of Method Orange retreat behind the pillar. And that's not the spot you really want to be in against a wizard setup that the Super Frogs is bringing. If Cubsy crosses the map, all of a sudden he's able to free cast. Chanimal's in a good position. Wealthyman in a good position as well, dropping out of Blizzard, rotting down Method Orange just a little bit. And although it's not that significant right now, as the game goes on, the Blizzard will eventually start pressuring down Method Orange quite a bit.
Yep, Mez is pinned down at the pillar, and Sea-Doo's healing is starting to become a lot less effective. Any crowd control on Sea-Doo might be enough to close this game out for the Super Frogs. This composition appears to be working for them. Perhaps Method Orange can pull off a comeback here, but they've got a lot of defense to work through with 2 ice blocks remaining here at almost 40% dampening. Unending Resolve for Chanimal. He's going to activate that Dark Soul. Chanimal is ready to try and get a kill. Infernals have landed. He needs to get at least 3 Chaos Bolts, I believe, maybe only 2. He needs to start doing them soon. Is he going to go for it? 1 Chaos Bolt gets gnawed, stunned into an Imprison. They shut Chanimal down during this moment. Wealthy Man is now falling behind, and they are retreating back to the pillar. Ursul's Eagle's Vortex pulls them back. That Chaos Bolt Ray of Frost might just be enough maybe to take Mez out. He's not really respecting the damage. Responds 1 second too late. And now a critical overlap as Method Orange begin to crack.
Yeah, that was scary. They needed, honestly, they needed that anti-magic zone to feel confident to push in. Wealthy Man does get gripped in. He gets stunned up, but Chanimal's just free casting is going to be all the backup that Wealthy Man needs, as well as Cubsy. There's just so much space. Sea-Doo can't push in, get interrupts on Cubsy, which is what they actually need to close out the game. They're going to be looking for a second ice block here. Definitely have potential to do so, but Sea-Doo's falling behind on health and mana. Doesn't really have too much effective healing to keep Mez alive. Mez now still chasing Wealthy Man, caught into the Nova, into the Ice Nova. Good control from Wealthy Man with those roots, really denying Mez a lot. And you can tell the Death Strike just isn't doing nearly as much work as it was earlier on. Earthen Shield Totem gets dropped out. Sea-Doo, that's the last line of defense. Abomination gets dropped out by Mez. Mortal Coil from Chanimals. Chaos Bolt connects. Anti-Magic Shell deflects the attack for now. Once again, Method Orange retreating behind the pillar, but at this point in the game, every time they do that, it becomes so difficult for Mez to survive.
Ooh, counterspell beautifully timed here by Wealthy Man as they look to stay alive and move to a game number 5 in the lower bracket elimination series. Only one of these teams can stay in the tournament and have a shot at that king's share of the points in the grand finals. Of course, the reigning BlizzCon champions, Method Orange, Sea-Doo, Mez, Trill, and Samayam. Even though Samayam on the bench, not too useful in the current meta.
No, he is
cheering
useful
his
in the
team
current
on.
meta.
He is useful in the current meta?
Drinks are important.
Oh, Samayam, the tier 1 water boy, trying to keep his team hydrated in the tournament here today, but ultimately, Chaos Bolt is looking like it's gonna kill Mez. Maledix is connecting now as well. Super Frogs tap Method Orange out on their best map and their best comp pick, but now Method Orange get to set the stage for game 5.
Did they even get a wall from Chan? Like, I'm not sure if Chan is somebody that they're getting enough pressure on. Zico, who do you think the kill target is? Because towards the end, I feel like they went through the entire gambit, right? You see Trill focusing on making sure that Cubsy can't get drinks. Then all of a sudden, it seems like Chan is going to be the focus, but he's still able to get set up. He's still able to get out pressure. And then they actually change to Wealthy Man, and that's when they do at least find a block.
Well, I think that the win condition for Method Orange is simple. You don't run Sea-Doo out of mana until you reach 50 or so % dampening. And when you do, you can take Chanimal down for sure. What it comes down to is you're playing way too much on the mana side of things. We've seen that before as well. You can't really go after Wealthy Man this late into the game and try to force out those ice blocks, and then Chanimal just gonna be free to do whatever he wants with those Infernal Stuns and Dark Soul, just big Chaos Bolts all over the place. Instead, I want to see them target Chanimal. I mean, here, he is next to the pillar. He has no Demonic Gateway. The problem is that you don't have any defensives here. If Mez leaves that pillar, he will surely go down. Even at the pillar, honestly, he's going down. So I think what it just comes down to is you want to go on Chanimal, but you want to do it late into dampening where you have such an overwhelming amount of pressure from the melees on your team. But you don't also want to go out of mana before that point, and I think that's more important than having Trill just chasing Cubsy around, stopping him from drinking, because you're not going to win by burning Cubsy down.
And I think that was something that they learned, right? You go into that matchup, it's not one that you really expect, but this is what we do expect from a high caliber team like the Super Frogs. They have kept Method guessing, and now the question is, who's going to take the next game, who is going home, and who will get to march on forward in our tournament? Weeks in a row, but this day is just getting started. Now our focus is going to be North America, and they are looking fantastic. It is a super match between the Super Frogs and Method Orange, and we're going all the way to a game 5.
Yes, we are. It's been an exciting match so far. It'll be interesting to see what adaptations we see from Method Orange. I think it's likely that they bring us to a small map. Sorry, we got the giggles here on the desk. I think it's likely they bring us to a small map. And I actually think even better than the Demon Hunter Death Knight would be a Windwalker Death Knight composition, especially if they lock in the Mage Lock Druid once again. I think having the additional healing reduction from Trill on the Windwalker Monk is going to be what could potentially tip the scales in their favor.
How do we like this composition coming in again on a much smaller map now, Zico?
Well, I think a big reason to why it worked so well was, of course, the Tolveron pick. Tolveron is just such a great map for Wizards, so I think it's going to be problematic for sure for Super Frogs here on Hook Point. But Chanimal had a fantastic game. He got to do a lot of damage in the previous matchup. He didn't seem too phased as well by Meza's damage in the earlier portions of the game. I have to agree with Van. I want to see that Windwalker. I think a big reason to why we saw Warwick's fall earlier was because of that Windwalker pressure. You know, you have that Touch of Death on a 2-minute cooldown, the Unending Resolve, which is that biggest defensive cooldown for damage reduction that the Warlock has, is on a 3-minute cooldown. So every 2 minutes, you know that the Windwalker is going to be packing a big punch. But no, they are not going to do that. Instead, they are going to bring in Sam I Am.
I don't mind it. This is the first time I don't mind them bringing in Sam I Am, to be honest. I think against this composition, it makes a lot more sense.
Also, I do want to say, like, Sam I Am is one of the best players in the world. Like, straight up, what he's able to do, this is a mage player that actually can play the Moonkin at the top caliber. Like, a lot of the mage players that you do look at cannot flex the way that Sam can. This was the perfect pickup for Method Orange last year when they were a 3-man team. And as much as we like to joke around, that's because we're all good friends with Sam, and we all... But the Moonkin, every time that we have seen it, it was the class when we did see it getting locked in.
I don't think Sam I Am's played mage with Method Orange ever.
I think the last time in a tournament that we saw him play was on this stage.
And
he was on... No, actually, I think he was on Chuck's team.
Yeah,
with Snuts. Yeah, no, that is right. Yeah, so that's, what, 2 years ago then?
A while ago.
And he played Moonkin in that tournament, too. He actually played Moonkin in that tournament because I remember Sid was actually like kind of critical. It was actually Sam's first LAN. It was Sam's first LAN, and he actually, I think he said as well that he did have like some jitters for that first LAN, and then he went on to win BlizzCon last year, right? So his career is an interesting one to watch, and what he's been able to accomplish is incredible. But the Moonkin so far for Method Orange just hasn't seemed like the right pick. It's the reason it was their 5th pick that sent them down from the top portion of the bracket to the lower bracket. And also here today, it hasn't necessarily seemed like the pick. Why do you like it here more than you have in the past?
Well, I think the Moonkin's going to be able to offer a lot more support to Trill on his quest to vacuum up Cubsy's mana in these games. On Hook Point, small map, it's unlikely Cubsy can drink. Another thing about the Boomkin is they drop down the Starfall, and that's a huge radius that they can easily keep Cubsy in mana. If Trill can't somehow find Cubsy, if he's getting crowd controlled, then Sam I Am can deny the drinks. And I think the consistent pressure from the Moonkin and the Demon Hunter will eventually take Super Frogs down.
Okay, so consistent pressure going to be the name of the game. And right now I have one question for everybody in the chat before we jump into this final. Do we have any chickens in the chat? We got plenty in the arena, balking all over the place, but we also have the king of the chickens in Sam I Am. Is this Moonkin pick going to be the one that gives Method Orange a win? This is crucial, an elimination series for both Method Orange and Super Frogs, only room for one of them, and we haven't seen the Moonkin work yet. Is this going to be the one that changes all of that as the gates now open?
Can Sam I Am bring new spices to his Moonkin here in game number 5 as they tag in what we called the water boy for Method Orange? It just seems like his strength is not being fully utilized in this current build, but he's got one more opportunity here to prove himself against the Super Frogs and to keep his team in the tournament. This is an elimination game. One of these teams will be going home. The other will advance to at least secure 3rd place, but they will still have to battle out for 3 more series potentially. Sam I Am getting stun locked in center field. Cubsy running Feral Affinity. Curious to see if Trill looks to punish that as he is running that Mana Rift stun combination. Method Orange may focus more on spreading damage to 3 targets rather than focusing on crowd control, and that means everything will ride on Cubsy to stay alive.
Yep, Sam I Am looking for damage onto Cubsy, and I think it's important that whenever Trill is making these swaps over to Cubsy, that Sam I Am backs him up with some damage. Cedu actually opting to play Relentless in this matchup. He was susceptible to a lot of crowd control, to say the least, in the last game. Chanimal's having a spammable Fear, Wealthy Man with a spammable Polymorph. It's difficult even as a Restoration Shaman with Grounding Totem, with Wind Shear, to avoid all of that. And I think Wealthy Man and Chanimals, they have really good coordination with each other. They've been playing together for a really long time, and I think if anyone could make the Mage Lock setup work right now, it would be the Super Frogs.
All right, with this Demon Hunter and this Balance Druid, both Starfall and the mobility of Trill, that Spectral Sight, Cubsy is never going to get to sit down and get a drink, and Resto Shaman will significantly outmana a Druid if the Druid can't drink. So Method Orange have set themselves up for success here in game number 5 versus the Super Frogs. What can Wealthy Man and Chanimal do on this close quartered map? Cubsy stun-locked once again. These mana rifts just impending doom for Cubsy and his entire team. Wealthy Man, or sorry, Chanimal lining up huge burst here. One Chaos Bolt. If he can get another Chaos Bolt, it could be devastating. Samayam takes it. Does he have a third? He needs more. Samayam just beefing it up in bear form, taking those Chaos Bolts like a champ and managing to stay alive. If Chanimal had comboed that Infernal, he may have been able to find a kill, and that may have ended up being a mistake on Chanimal's part. He's still going to have that window of opportunity. Getting Solar Beam now out of the way, so he doesn't have to deal with that interrupt. It's really up to Chanimal and Wealthy Man to deal enough damage to force Trill off of Cubsy's back, but before dampening, the leech healing on that Demon Hunter is just too significant, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to in time. Cubsy's running out of it. He's almost completely tapped on mana.
Yeah, it's really, really nice to see just how well Sea-Doo is using these Earth Elementals as well, constantly placing them onto Cubsy when his Shadow Meld is down, forcing him to just stay in combat while he allows Trill to actually put on some pressure onto Chanimal and Wealthy Man, and we can see the mana bar of Cubsy is dwindling down, and it's going to be up to Chanimal and Wealthy Man to set up a drink here for Cubsy. We can see a Polymorph onto Sea-Doo, another Polymorph coming in, and there it is, big Chaos Bolts onto Trill. This could be an opportunity potentially for Cubsy to sneak away and get a drink, but Trill and Samayam are all over him. He might be able to get that restuff. No, he's not going to be able to. That Starfall from Samayam is going to keep him in combat for now, and then Trill, of course, in hot pursuit here, looking for yet another mana rift, and Cubsy, he does not have much left at all to work with, and there it is. Another mana rift is going to be landing onto Cubsy.
Yeah, we think about the last game and how exactly it played out. Very similar, except Samayam isn't going to be a Death Knight who's just caught in the middle of the map, susceptible to Chaos Bolts and Frostbolt spam. Cubsy getting a little bit low in an attempt from Trill and Samayam. Good pressure. Cubsy having to run across the map to get any sort of hope to find some mana, but anytime he does, he gets punished by Method Orange, and now Cubsy almost completely tapped on mana. Really not too much left he can do.
All right, at this point, Cubsy, your back's against the wall. There's nowhere to hide. Trill the Demon Hunter will find you, and I don't think he can keep it going. He manages to wild charge back to Chanimal, but Mana Rift ultimately connecting. I believe the damage is just following through. They're just going to single out Cubsy for the rest of this series. It's everything on him to keep this game going as long as he can for Chanimal and Wealthy Man to find an opening to get a kill and stay in the tournament. Good crowd control by the Super Frogs. Double Mortal Coil, good execution. Chanimal needs to catch a Chaos Bolt, gets denied by Samayam. Once again, Method Orange with great defense.
Ooh, Cubsy is looking to get that drink right there. No, he's going to be stopped by Samayam. So now phase 1 is essentially complete of this matchup. Cubsy is completely out of mana. Now I want to see Trill and Samayam try to start dwindling down those ice blocks or that unending resolve on Chanimal if they choose to go for him. I don't think they're actually going to be able to kill Cubsy that easily. And there it is, Metamorphosis from Trill, who is his target. He's looking at Wealthy Man. Big Chaos Bolt though, as he takes down to about 20% HP there from Chanimal. And now he's looking for another Fear. Not going to be able to find it though, and Samayam is getting a lot of pressure out now onto Wealthy Man. This is what we need to see. We need to see that Iron Bar get used from Cubsy, and then the ice blocks get forced from Wealthy Man, and then they can finally start killing somebody on the side of Method Orange.
Yep, Cubsy 0 mana left in the tank, 2% dampening. Good pressure on Chanimals right now from Samayam, who's just trying to do as much damage as he possibly can in this matchup. That's basically his job. Avoid damage, support Trill in stopping Cubsy from drinking, and then use the pillar to try to survive as long as possible. Eventually, his damage will overwhelm Cubsy at this point in the game. He is out of line of sight right now. Cubsy manages to get in stealth, but once again, that Starfall is just so effective for Samayam to keep Cubsy in combat and deny the drinks. And now you can see Sea-Doo, he's going to move over with Trill, deny the drinks once again. And this is where it gets a little bit scary here for Cubsy. Wealthy Man rotting down low as well. He has to play catch-up basically at this point, but with no mana available, Wealthy Man certainly will be forced into his first ice block. He only has one of those left in the game, and if they can continuously just chase down Cubsy, I feel like Method Orange, they have Super Frogs in a chokehold.
Yeah, this is basically checkmate right now. Method Orange have crafted compositions to take out the Super Frogs, who knocked them down to the lower bracket. But Wealthy Man and Hypothermia, tons of damage here as they look to close out game number 5. Method Orange stay alive off the back of Sam I Am substitute. They get to stay in it and have an opportunity. Super Frogs, the highest point earners currently, finish in 4th, and this is an opportunity for them to be overthrown.
Good moment for Sam I Am too. I mean, you look at this moment, and he finally gets to come in. It's a great time to have the Moonkin as well. He does exactly what he needs to do. That's damage, and he denies as many drinks as possible with that strong area denial coming out from the Starfall. But he's got to take down one of his longtime friends, one of his old teammates in Snuts, in one of the most impressive teams that's come together so far this year.
Yeah, and this is a nice performance. I like this composition a lot better as well when it's paired up with the Resto Shaman. We can see as well the small map is doing a lot of work here. The Starfall, of course, going to be a lot more effective in shutting down those drinks on a smaller area. Hook Point being the smallest area, the smallest map in terms of area as well. So, and then, of course, in deep dampening, when Cubsy is completely dried up on that mana, they managed to actually find those Star Surges. That incarnation as well is going to be very key at this point in the game when there's no longer mana on Cubsy to actually force out those ice blocks and start taking them down.
Now, as we do look at the bracket, Method Orange wanted to be able to take this team out as fast as possible too. We already know that most of the points going the way of Super Frogs. They are one of the best teams that we saw in our first cut for North America, but now the reigning champions of BlizzCon have made it to the lower final. They are either playing against Get Your Boy Dog or the Boys. Whoever wins that goes to the grand finals. Next up is going to be just that, Get Your Boy Dog versus the Boys.